Okay, good morning again. It is the 11th of May, Wednesday morning here. We are looking at the the dollar index, the pound dollar, the euro pound today being Wednesday. So markets have been, well, markets apart from the FX markets, everything else has been in a big drop, a big decline. But the FX markets have overnight set quite quiet in a bit of a consolidation. So it's been quite interesting. I think it is setting up for quite a significant move to be happening, possibly not this week, but more into next week. What we're looking at for this week is possibly a bit more of a trending scenario, a consolidation before that resumption of the trend, right? So with that, as usual, if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you check your charts, make sure you check the prices before you look into any of the analysis that we have done. Just because this video is going to be uploaded slightly later onto YouTube, if you want to catch us live, then make sure you check out the links, check out the comment section, jump onto the Traders Club because this is done live for Traders Club members. With that said, heading straight to the disclaimer, any information shared in this video is not intended to be a trade recommendation. It is solely the opinion and views of the speaker, myself. So please remember to do your own analysis prior to entering any trades. Right. So looking at the news here, you can see that just doing a quick recap. Yesterday, nothing much happened. Treasury Secretary Yellen did come out and speak, and what actually caused the market, what she said actually caused the markets to move quite significantly, because she did come out and talk about further possible policy adjustments, and also commented about cryptocurrencies, looking at a regulation on cryptocurrencies. That's why we're seeing crypto drop across the board as well. I'll tell you more about the cryptocurrencies on Friday when we look at that, right? So nothing much else from yesterday. For today, we did have the Chinese CPI numbers being released. Was 1.5%, expected a 1.8, came out at 2.1. So quite a strong number there for the Chinese CPI, which actually resulted in a bit of an upward move in the Aussie dollar and the Kiwi dollar. The correlation for the Chinese performance with the Aussie dollar is quite high. So stronger CPI number possibly push the yuan up and also push the Aussie dollar up a little bit because of that news. The main thing to pay attention to for today will be at 8:30 p.m. GMT plus 8, where the US CPI number is to be released. US CPI month-on-month change is expected to go from a 1.2 to change to 0.2%. So a small increase in CPI, or a small increase in inflation. At this point, it's likely to be because of, well, inflation running very high in the US, and also the actions taken by the FOMC to curb this growth in inflation. They've been increasing, they have increased interest rates by 50 basis points the last meeting. They're talking about increasing interest rates by 50 basis points in subsequent meetings, and they've also started taking action on their balance sheet. So with that, we've seen some upward move in the dollar. We've seen now likely to see the inflation data peak. You can see here it's peaked and likely to still continue upwards, but not as quickly as before, right? So we need to pay attention to that. I think we're likely to see it at a 0.2 or a 0.3% in terms of a data release. And if we do see that, we're still likely to see the upward move in the dollar, because it's still a growth. As much as it's not aggressive or that significant, it's still a growth. So we're likely to still see an upward move in the dollar strength. With that, on Thursday, not a lot of news, but with the pound in focus, we do have the pound GDP numbers to be released quarter on quarter, looking to go from a 1.3. This was revised from a 1 to a 1%, right? So expected to be at 1%. I think that we're not likely to see any surprises there from the UK. So GDP for the UK likely quarter on quarter likely to be at that 1% level. What I think here is that at 1 or 1.5%, we're likely to see this as a level of stability for the GDP, which could actually lead to some upside in the pound dollar, given that, at this point on this evening, we're going to see the dollar strengthen a little bit, but we're not going to see too much downside. And then after that, we're going to see some upside in the pound dollar tomorrow afternoon with the GDP being released from the UK. With that on Friday, not much else. Consumer sentiment looking to drop because of the inflation has been running so high. We're seeing, consumers cut back on spending because of this high inflation. So what all this means is two things to pay attention to: CPI data for tonight, US dollar strength expected, and then the pound GDP tomorrow afternoon, which we could see the pound dollar strengthen back. What this all means on the charts is, looking at the dollar index here on the H4 time frame. Yesterday when we spoke about it, I said it was likely to come down towards that 103 level and bounce up towards that 104. It did that not as significantly as I expected. It did drop a little bit before moving up towards the 104 level. I think what we're looking at is it's going to sit there for today. It's going to sit there until the CPI news tonight. So if I were to be a bit more pedantic with this, I would say that at 8 p.m. tonight, we're likely to see that break up above 104. I don't think it will move from 104 towards 105 tonight. CPI month on month, not a big news. It's not a super high impact news. So we're likely to see it sit in consolidation for the afternoon, break above 104 in the evenings, and then maybe sit just slightly above 104, maybe just below 104.20 in consolidation at this level, right? So that's my view on the dollar index, looking at some dollar strength coming back into play later into the trading session for today. So what this leads to on the charts for the pound dollar is that you can see, if I zoom out here, the pound dollar is at a very low point. The last few times we've been talking about it was at 1.25. If it were to break 1.25 level, we could see that downside towards the 1.22 or 1.23 level. What has happened on a pound dollar is that it has come towards 1.23. It sat there, it tried to break lower, but it's bounced back up. And then it tried to test that 1.23 level again, and now looking like it's bouncing back up. What I would say is short to medium term, or rather short term, we're going to see it sit in consolidation. But in the overall view, I think that you could be looking for buying opportunities on the pound dollar towards the upside above 1.2350. So above 1.2350, you have a 75. You could first trade have a 75 pip take profit, a 75 pip stop loss, a 1:1 risk reward ratio towards the upside. Or if you're a little bit aggressive, then you could stretch your take profit towards the 130 level, towards that 1.25 level, a almost 1:2 risk reward ratio towards the upside for the pound dollar. Bear in mind, no, still losing my voice. Bear in mind, this is a very big counter trend trade. This is a counter trend trade. So with all counter trend trades, you have to be extra careful. It could reverse quite quickly. We're looking at this to move back up. So just make sure this is a trade you watch and manage quite closely if you're jumping into a counter trend trade. Could it break below this 1.23 level? Yes, it can. But I think that if we went to the weekly time frame, the last time it broke below was in April 2020. This was during the pandemic. We saw this break below and bounce back up quite quickly. I think that while the chance for that to happen is quite likely, there might be some opportunities for short-term counter trend trade back up. If we do see the pound dollar push higher at this point, then it would make our analysis from yesterday on the euro pound work out quite nicely. Yesterday on the euro pound, I was saying that you could be looking to sell down below 0.8548 with a 35 pip stop loss, 45 pip take profit at 1:1.28 risk reward ratio towards the downside. That trade has triggered. And it's in the money right now. I think I would hold on to that and still continue to hold it towards the downside, especially if we see that the pound dollar push higher. With that, if you haven't got into this trade already, I would say that it's still not too late. It hasn't moved that much from my entry point, so there's still an opportunity to get into this trade with the euro pound. Again, a big reversal, a big counter trend trade here. Just make sure you watch this closely. Something that you could look at on the H4 or possibly on the H1 time frame as well. So there you go, short and sharp. We're looking at some short-term consolidation and some strength back into the dollar index. The pound dollar and the euro pound, I'm looking at a possible counter trend trade scenario there, looking at a reverse on the pound dollar bouncing off that 1.23 level, possibly back to test that 1.25 before maybe a resumption back down again, with the euro pound at a very high point now, looking for it to track back. With that said, I hope you are trading well, trading safe. Market is sitting in a bit of consolidation right now, so don't try to force out too many trades. You're likely to be entering trades in a hurry there. Wait out for a good setup before you jump into those trades. With that, I'll see you tomorrow for the next currency call. We're looking at the yen pairs and gold tomorrow on Thursday morning. See you now. Bye-bye.